Hello and welcome back to the Flower Barn Homestead. I'm Lily, one of the co-owners of the Flower Barn Micro Bakery, and this week was truly a crazy week. In addition to being open on Fridays and Saturdays 8 to 11 at our bakery, we also host a variety of cooking and baking classes at our barn. We teach artisan sourdough, cinnamon roll classes, Christmas cookie classes, and this week we had a breads and spreads class. This ended up being such a delicious and fun class to teach, and it was really just in time for the holidays. We also have a blog called the Flower Barn Homestead that I was able to go to a conference for, hosted by the ad company we recently joined called Mediavine, that puts ads on our blog, which allows us to make money on our blog. And the best part was I was able to go to Boston for this conference and just explore the city with my husband and my youngest daughter, Amelia. So I had such a blast touring bakeries and exploring the city, and I just can't wait to share this week with all of you. So let's get started. In the 5 years that we've owned our bakery, the Flower Barn, so much has changed. 5 years ago, if I had told my dad and Ellen that I was missing a Saturday, things just couldn't have gone on. We relied on each other so heavily, and we rarely got any weekends off. Now that we have more employees and more flexibility in our schedules, I am able to take off some days, and that is such a luxury. This week, I'm actually missing Wednesday through Saturday, so I tried to get all my prep work done that I normally do on Wednesday done on Monday. So right now what I'm doing is making a graham cracker crust for our cheesecake for the week. We actually do cheesecake bars, which is just kind of a thinner cheesecake. And this allows us to use the same pans that we use for everything else. We just had to buy these extenders to be able to make our cheesecake in our regular pans. We have really tried to convert all of our recipes into being able to be made in a pan. So our cinnamon rolls, our brownies, our blondies, pretty much everything is made in these pans, and that's nice for storing the pans. Everything fits on the rack, and it really just streamlines everything. Also, this was the first day I used a Dutch whisk to mix the butter into the graham cracker crust, and it worked so well. And I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, because a Dutch whisk is made to mix wet and dry ingredients efficiently, so I should have known that it would be way easier to do than using a wooden spoon, which is what I normally do. So I'm putting my graham cracker, it's a mixture of graham crackers, sugar, and melted butter, and I'm putting it down on the pan. I'm going to spread it out, and then I'm going to bake it for about 10 minutes just to kind of get it firming up so that it creates a good base for when we add the cheesecake. The cheesecake won't just sink through the graham cracker mixture. So this recipe for our cheesecake bars is very versatile. So we have been doing a pumpkin cheesecake for the fall. We will be doing a plain cheesecake this week, just topped with a homemade salted caramel and a homemade chocolate ganache, or house-made. And then for the winter, when Christmas starts coming, we love to do a white chocolate cheesecake with a cranberry compote between the crust and the cheesecake, and then we top it with a white chocolate mousse. And I think that's my favorite cheesecake flavor. So to make sure that we have a smooth cheesecake, I make sure I warm up the cheesecake so that I'm able to easily squish on it, I guess. And then I'm going to beat that with the sugar until it's nice and smooth. And I want it to get smooth and soft before I add the egg, and so that it doesn't clump up. And so I'm able to beat that until smooth, and then I'm going to pour it on my already baked graham cracker crust. I remember long ago when I thought the 20-quart mixer was so heavy, and it is very heavy. But now that we have the 60-quart mixer, which takes 2 people to even lift up, this one definitely seems a lot easier to make stuff in. So we actually have a Hobart 20-quart commercial mixer, and if you're curious about any of the equipment that we have in our bakery or our micro bakery, I actually did a full video giving a tour of the bakery, and then also I made like a list of all the items that I could link to. So anything that was on Amazon, packaging, equipment, all that stuff, you can go check that out. It's on our page. It's in the behind the scenes playlist. And we're gonna bake this for an additional 15 to 20 minutes. And it should reach an internal temperature of above 160 degrees. And again, I always recommend getting an internal thermometer to check your baked goods, because each baked good has a proper internal temperature. So I'm putting this in the oven, and we have a Blondie commercial oven. Again, if you want to see more about our equipment, go ahead and check out the tour of our micro bakery. And one of my favorite parts of the day is making myself a latte, or actually I always make myself flat white. I know you guys have heard me say this a million times. My go-to is a plain almond milk flat white, and I have it one probably every single day. So moving right along, I start on my brownies. So one tip that helps us not to get cocoa everywhere, because cocoa is so fine, it kind of just puffs into the air. So we start with putting the cocoa at the bottom, and then we add the sugar and kind of give that a mix, and then we add in the melted butter, and we let that beat for a little while, and then we slowly add in the liquid egg, and then at the end you let you pulse the mixer to mix in the flour mixture or the dry ingredients. And we don't want to overmix that, because we don't want a dense chewy brownie. We want a nice crumbly fudgy brownie instead. So this always creates such a full mixer, and this is probably one of the heaviest things I have to lift while I'm at the bakery. So I always try to get most of it out by dumping it, but then I always have to go back through and scrape the sides of the bowl out, because we want to get every bit of the batter that we can. And so this brownie recipe, I have it on the blog. I have it under Cosmic Brownie Recipe. But really it can be so versatile just by changing what you top it with. So for our cosmic brownies, we use a type of ganache icing that gets real shiny and kind of looks like a classic, Little Debbie cosmic brownie. But other things that you can do are just adding a chocolate buttercream. You don't have to add an icing at all. You could instead cover it with M&Ms or candy bars or chocolate chips. And then for Christmas coming up, we're going to be doing a peppermint bark brownie, which is where we ice these with a peppermint buttercream and then top them with candy canes. So that's just a way you can use this basic brownie recipe to turn it into a variety of different items. So these again are on pans that can fit on our racks. So you can make this recipe with a pan extender, but we bought these deep pans. They're the same size as our regular sheet pans, and we sit them on sheet pans so that they fit nicely on our racks for cooling, because we want all of our items to be able to cool on a rack instead of taking up counter space. The next item on my to-do list is these brown butter apple blondies. These are so delicious, and what's nice is that Paige always preps the brown butter for me, so the most time-consuming part of this recipe is browning the butter, and even that isn't difficult. Just when you're browning so much, it can take a while, and so Paige has that prepped for me, and so I mix in the sugar with the brown butter, I add in the eggs and the vanilla, I pulse in the dry ingredients, and then you add in your apples. So this is a pretty thick batter, and sometimes it can feel like you did something wrong, but it really is supposed to be this thick, and it does get topped with a brown butter icing. So this is a specialty item that we only make in the fall and the winter, but we do keep it around for both the fall and the winter. And then when spring hits, we switch to our key lime pie bars. So that's kind of like half the year we're doing these brown butter blondies, and the other half we're doing our key lime pie bars. Realizing that you can just freeze batter has really been a game changer. I'm actually going to put these blondies and the brownies into the freezer, and I'm going to bake them directly from frozen, and then we are able to serve freshly baked blondies and brownies Friday and Saturday. And now we're already to Tuesday. Tuesday is our class day, so every Tuesday at 6 p.m. we have a class. And I always start it off the prepping for the class with a latte. And today I had my favorite latte flavor, which is a white chocolate frosted mint latte. It's kind of a Christmas time latte, so I don't get it. So this was the first one I had of the year, and it was so good. So this class is called Breads and Spreads, and one of the things we're teaching in it is how to make a butterboard. A butterboard is really just a way of taking either a whipped butter, or in this case a whipped cream cheese, and kind of styling it on a cutting board or a slate, and then topping it with a delicious topping. So you can use, I have a whole blog post on how to create butterboards. You can either make like compound butters, like, using homemade strawberry jam and whipping it with butter and then putting it onto a tray, or you can make just like a plain butter with some salt, or just a plain cream cheese mixture. You whip it, you put it on the cutting board, and then you top it with some type of yummy topping. So the recipes that we used for these are a candied pecan and cranberry topping, and then a more savory recipe, which was called the French Quarter Dip, and it was a mixture of onions and garlic and Worcestershire sauce and just a lot of different good toppings with some pecans. And so each of these were so delicious, topped on top of just a simple cream cheese mixture. And so here is one of the ways I love to do butterboards. It looks very kind of intricate. I know not in this very picture, but usually people are like, how do you do that? And it's so simple. You just use a cookie scoop and you scoop out your mixture onto the tray, and then you use an angled spatula to kind of pull down before adding the next scoops. One of the first classes that I taught at the bakery was charcuterie, and it was such a fun class because charcuterie is so fun. When you're somebody who loves food and loves hosting events, charcuterie can be such an exciting way to express your enjoyment of food. So I love hosting events and being able to set up charcuterie tables. They allow your guests to try different things, to test combinations, but I do think that there is a responsibility when you're creating your charcuterie board to allow your guests to kind of be led towards good combinations. So when you're setting up your table, you want to put things that really work together near each other so that your guests don't really have to guess at what they should be mixing together. You kind of have that already done. And butterboards are just a great thing to add to charcuterie tables, or just appetizer tables or buffets, because you're able to kind of create this delicious combination on a board, and then right next to it just put either your crostinis or your pretzel chips, whatever you want to go with that dip and that topping. You're able to kind of layer beside it, and it just looks really fancy and decadent. If you haven't seen, I actually did a big charcuterie board for my sister Paige's wedding shower, and it also had like a cake element to it. So it was like a cake picnic and a charcuterie table. And so if you want to check that out, I will link that video also. So each of our students were given a pack of recipes that they are able to reference during the class and that they will be able to take home after the class. Some items that we got specifically for teaching classes are these portable burners, or these individual hot plates. These have been so nice that each kind of group gets to work on their own and create their own items right at their spots. So during this class, we are set to make soft pretzels. So instead of having them mix soft pretzels at their station, we did a demo on how to make the dough. Because we're using a mixture, we just thought we would handle that part. And then they also were making flatbreads. So we made flatbreads and soft pretzels during this class. And then to go with our pretzels and our flatbreads, we made different spreads. We had cut up some of our sourdough that we made, and we taught our students how they can toast their crostinis. We love to use a method we learned from the Pioneer woman, when in her bruschetta recipe, she talks about slicing your baguette and then just basically frying it in butter, and it's so delicious. And so we've kind of fried up our crostinis, and then I also did a demo on how to bake brie. So baking brie is one of my favorite recipes. It turns the brie into like this melty, gooey, buttery cheese. And then I like to top it with a jam and honey. So this is a cranberry orange kind of Christmas jam with honey. And then the other baked brie we did was caramelized onions and bacon. And both of these baked bries are on the blog, so I will definitely link those below. And then we wanted our students to kind of not just get the experience of making each of these breads and spreads, but also how to display them at their own holiday parties. So we made kind of a group grazing table out of each of the dishes that we created. So at the front you see the baked brie and the toasted crostinis. In the middle we have the butter boards and the flatbreads that they made. And then on the end we have the soft pretzels and the homemade queso. And it was just such a exciting looking table, and the queso was so delicious, and the soft pretzels turned out so good. It really felt like we were having a holiday party with all of our students, which we do want our students to leave with definitely some knowledge that they can use in their future, but we also want these classes to feel fun and exciting, and just we want to give each of our students an enjoyable and relaxing evening. And then we were off to Boston. After a surprisingly easy plane ride, we arrived at our hotel and we had the best view from our room. And then I went and I picked up all my information for my conference. And then later that night, they had a meet and greet for all the attendees where we got to meet, I got to meet different bloggers and of different genres of blog, and it was so fancy. I've never been to such a fancy event. There were waiters carrying appetizers around. This was some of the food. There are two main bakeries in Boston that have cannolis, and people are always trying to figure out who has the best, and they had both there. They had a charcuterie table, which I love, and it was just mind-blowing. So this is me on the first day of the conference. I was so nervous. I really had no idea what to expect with the conference. When I first got there, everyone I met had been blogging for over 7 years, up to 10 years, all very successful, and I am very new in the blogging world. I've been blogging for about 2 years, but just in the past 3 months has it become a bigger part of my life. We're starting to make money off of our blog, so I was definitely very intimidated. So I was a little bit sick to my stomach. I was so nervous for the first day, but after talking with different people, they were all so nice, and after learning so much, I definitely felt a lot better. While I was off learning information for the blog, my husband took my 18-month-old out on the town for some bakery tours. My husband was truly a rock star for this trip. He researched the transportation system, and it really just made it easy to go all over the city. If you were to visit Boston, I would recommend getting they call it a Charlie card, and just being able to get on the train system and use the subway. It just made the whole experience so much easier, and we were able to explore so many different parts of Boston. This was my husband's favorite spot that we tried. It was called Pressed Coffee and Cafe, and he was able to get a good breakfast sandwich, and he had coffee here and a really good scone. It was a cranberry oatmeal raisin scone, so he definitely wants me to try to recreate it. This day he got a cinnamon roll and a cookie. He said if he went back to Boston, his day would always start by going to Pressed Coffee. And then he went to Flour, which I ended up going to later, which it was very nice. It felt very much from scratch. They had a very versatile menu. I got to try their coconut cake, and it was really good, but it's hard to beat Ellen's coconut cake, so I'm always comparing it to that. This next place, we ended up going back together on Saturday, and it was packed. It was crazy, but this was definitely my top pick of probably any bakery I've been to other than our own. We got a double pan of chocolate, and it was delicious, a lemon madeleine, and just everything we got was so good. I loved looking back in their kitchen. I felt like I really could see some similarities between how our kitchen is set up and how theirs is, and that was just really cool to see. And they gave Emmy Lou a sticker. Their customer service was so good, which is so nice to see in the city. There was a lot of times where you don't feel like that is the case, and it was just really nice. And it's right next to the Children's Museum and also the Boston Tea Party Museum, so it's in a great area if you're trying to explore the city. I have always loved going on bakery tours, even when I was a child, and for obvious reasons, it's a lot of fun in that you get to eat good food, and I'm a baker, so I love seeing different baked goods, but it also can be very educational as somebody who sells baked goods. So although I obviously have a bakery on a much smaller scale, and you at home, you might just sell bread or you might sell sourdough only, you still can learn a lot from going to see big bakeries. And that's because they have a much bigger budget for things like marketing and customer acquisition. This means they've researched their customers. They've honed in their menu to include the things that their customers want. So even just by looking, what is it that people are wanting from bakeries, seeing that each case has a pan of chocolate, or seeing that each case has at least 2 kinds of cookies, or that none of the cases have more than 7 items. Just looking at different menus, different items from big bakeries can be really helpful to kind of create your own menu. The difference between big city bakeries and micro bakeries is that in the city there is just more people for them to serve. Each day they can handle making a lot of product in one day. They can handle making fresh pastry every day of the week because they know they're going to sell it. So you do want to keep in mind that even though big bakeries in the city can be open every day and still be profitable, that may not be realistic for a micro bakery. And that's why micro bakers have to be more flexible in their hours, maybe only being open a couple days a week like us, or having limited pickup days. You can't compare yourself to what people are doing in the city because they just have such a different amount of people every single day walking through their doors. One other thing that Garrett and Emmy did while they were in Boston is they took what's called the Freedom Trail to visit various monuments around Boston. It was obviously such an important place during the American Revolution. We both love history. I love to think about baking throughout the years, and if you think back to the time where we were in a revolution and the British were taxing the American people on everyday goods, women were very impacted in their homes, and they were having to get, creative with what they were able to make for their families. And it just makes you so thankful for the access you have, not only to baked goods or products from the grocery store, but just being able to get ingredients, being able to bake for fun and to bake for experiment's sake, not just for survival. And I just think I'm so lucky to get to do what I do every week. While they were out all day doing fun things like going on tours, I was at my conference taking notes and learning a lot about blogging. But then after I was done blogging, we would go to dinner and Garrett would try to show me all the sites again, but in the dark. So this graveyard definitely was a little creepier when it was at night, but he did try to remember everything that his tour guide told him and redo the tour guide's speeches to me. Sometimes he did them well, sometimes I think he forgot a couple of things. This is a Benjamin Franklin memorial, and I thought it was a little strange because right behind it was a Ruth's Chris, and I just thought that seems like a strange pair. But man, Boston was just so clean, so beautiful, and we were both just very impressed with the whole city. While we were here, we got to see some beautiful architecture, and also we got to see where the Boston Massacre occurred, and also I believe the building where the Declaration of Independence was first read. So that's this building right here with the clock. And in this video we actually got for my son because he loves fire trucks, so we got that little picture for him. And then here's the plaque, that's where the Boston Massacre was. Here is a beautiful view from the steps, And then I wasn't here for the tour because I was at my conference, but each night we would go out together and he would try to show me the sights he saw during the day. And then we also went and got dinner so that I could get a clam chowder from Boston. But then also while we were out this night, we went to one of the bakeries that we saw all over the place. It must be a large chain in Boston. I don't love chain bakeries. I think they serve a great purpose in that they get people accustomed to going to bakeries and spending money on baked goods. But when some place has several different stores and most likely they're creating their pastry in one place and then shipping it out to all these stores, and that could mean that they're laminating the dough in one place and then shipping that laminated dough to be baked fresh for your customers. But either way, there's going to be extra ways to preserve those baked goods that I just feel like take away from the taste. So I don't love big chains, but that doesn't mean all of them aren't doing it right. That place just wasn't my favorite. I definitely preferred the Fontaine, whatever. I'm not really sure how to say it. And then Flour, I also preferred. But the city was so beautiful in the evening, and this night we really just enjoyed walking around. We also visited a place called Quincy Market. It was recommended by a lot of people. I did not think it was great. I definitely preferred other places that we went. And then Garrett had the next day to explore the city a little bit more, so he took the next day, and then we went to a Christmas market that night. It was kind of perfect in that it was still warm, kind of fall weather, as in like in the 60s, so not too cold, but also the city was just becoming Christmassy. They were playing Christmas music. They just opened this Christmas market, and it was such an amazing experience. It was so well done. I have been to the Kinder Market, I believe that's what it's called, in Chicago, and I did not love it. This I enjoyed so much more. I loved all the products. Each of the booths were so nice. I got to visit a couple different bakery booths while I was here and just get some really good Christmas ideas. Here was a jar of cookie mix, which I've done before, and I think that they work great. I loved these cake in the cups. They were so moist. I ended up getting a Biscoff one, and it just really keeps the cake moist, and I think it's a great thing to package. And then we got a gourmet hot chocolate, which was amazing. It was also Biscoff because I'm really obsessed with Biscoff right now, apparently. And so it was expensive, and honestly, it was worth it to me. It was as good as like a fancy latte. And I love that Biscoff flavor, and it had a cinnamon stick soaking in it. So even though the top was really fancy and really good, even when we got down to the bottom, the hot chocolate was delicious. I also tried a cake pop popsicle stick. Here's another amazing bakery with macarons. But I tried this cake pop popsicle stick, and I will say it all tasted like a popsicle stick. So I'm not going to recommend that you do cake pops like that because I don't think cake and popsicle sticks work well together. But it was a really amazing night. My conference ended on Friday, so Saturday I was finally able to go and explore the city. The first place we started walking to, we just happened upon this little forest of winter trees, Christmas trees set up, and it was just so magical. We stopped and got a couple pictures of Emmy while we were there. She was really feeling herself during this, and she was smiling so big, and strangers just, it's hard to go out in public with her. Everyone just wants to talk to her. But this was a cute little bakery. We didn't actually get anything here just because we were on our way to a place that Garrett really wanted to show me. But I wish I had gotten a lobster tail pastry. I can't pronounce the official name, but right there, we always call them lobster tails. And I really wanted to try one while I was in Boston, but I didn't get one there, and I never saw one after that. But we did go to this Blue Bottle coffee, and it was delicious. I got a Nyla cold foam coffee, so it was like their sweetened cold brew with a cold foam on top, and it was so good. And then we also got that oatmeal raisin scone that Garrett loved that he wants me to remake sometime. And this place is called Pressed Coffee. I mentioned earlier Garrett loved it. This is our food from the Fontaine. Again, it was packed, so we weren't able to sit down. We just took it to the pier instead, and it was so good. It was better than I expected. Everything was just done perfectly. I really wish my dad had gotten to try some of his pastry because he loves different lamination techniques and trying different laminated pastries. So this is the double pan of chocolate, and I definitely want to try to recreate it at our bakery sometime. And then we went to Beacon Hill area, and while we were there, I just saw this little cafe that was like a bookshop, and then underneath it, in like the basement of the bookshop, there was a little cafe, and it was packed again because it was Saturday. We probably not the best day to go explore Boston, probably the busiest day, but it was so cute. So I would love if we go back in the future to try to go to that cafe. And something I really enjoyed was just walking down like random streets and just enjoying the beautiful day and the architecture of the area. Beacon Hill is a very popular area, and I've seen it on a couple tourist or travel blogs, and I loved it. I loved the area. The specific street, they say to go on Acorn Street. I didn't think it was anything overly special. This is the road everyone gets pictures on. I really felt like the whole street was beautiful, and we just continued to walk around this area, and it must be very wealthy. They took a very good care of their landscaping. Their flower boxes were also beautiful, and each building was just amazing. I believe my husband told me that the man who designed these buildings is the same man who also designed the US Capitol building. It was like every corner we turned, the buildings just got more and more beautiful, and it got less busy the farther you got from the main part of Beacon Hill, but it was just as beautiful, so we really enjoyed just walking the quiet streets. And we also just bought a house that's colonial, so we've kind of enjoyed just looking at the architecture and the landscaping and trying to get some inspiration from that. My mother-in-law was watching my 3-year-old toddler, so it was just really special to have a couple days to just focus on Emmy. Rarely does she get all of our attention, so it was just fun to be able to really focus on her for a couple days. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video of our exciting week at the bakery and in Boston. If you like this content and want to see more, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you're looking for recipes or baking tips, be sure to check out our blog, The Flour Barn Homestead. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon.